What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, American cruiserweight and heavyweight title contender Michael Hunter, 19 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 13 wins by way of knockout. Last time we saw him in the ring was back in December of 2020 when he got a knockout victory. He will be facing off this Saturday, Mike Wilson, on the Jamal Charlo undercard. So Michael Hunter stands at 6'2" with a 79-inch arm reach. Michael Hunter had some interesting things to say when it came to legendary retired Hall of Famer, a 5-division world champion, former pound-for-pound king, former pay-per-view king, who is still actively a pay-per-view king within the sport of boxing, as shown when he just did an exhibition bout with a YouTuber in Logan Paul and did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. With that said, Leonard ELLERBE, he took to social media after a post by The Athletic was posted congratulating Alexander Povetkin on his retirement. And Leonard ELLERBE, he went behind the post, and Leonard ELLERBE, he stated that, don't dismiss. Leonard ELLERBE, the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, partner of Floyd Mayweather. Leonard ELLERBE, he said, don't dismiss the fact that Alexander Povetkin tested positive for banned substance. That can't go away. He says, once you put a blemish on your resume with this type of situation, it's always, your career is always in question. So Leonard ELLERBE, he had this to say, quote, first off, The Athletic, they stated, that, congratulations to Alexander Povetkin on a great career, Olympic gold medalist, and took part in some pretty big fights. Remember watching his early fights on YouTube while in college. Leonard ELLERBE, he responded to that by saying, don't leave out the fact that he tested positive. In my opinion, guys who've gotten popped, their entire career is questionable. And as a sport, we shouldn't be propping up cheats. Nobody knows if they were doing it before they got popped. Check out their performances and their inconsistencies, just my opinion. This is what Leonard ELLERBE had to say, end quote. Well, then Michael Hunter, he responded to Leonard ELLERBE. He says, quote, Floyd was caught before. He was making too much money for the city of Las Vegas, so they swerved it. Stop playing, end quote. Wow. So Michael Hunter, he says that Floyd Mayweather was making so much money that, the city, for the city of Las Vegas, that they couldn't afford, to put this on Front Street. So they put it to the back burner and swept it under the rug, essentially. We've heard this numerous of times that Floyd Mayweather had tested, positive. Floyd Mayweather used IVs. Floyd Mayweather retired 50-0. He fought more world champions and beat more world champions than anybody in the history of the sport of boxing. Floyd Mayweather actually introduced Olympic-style testing to the sport of boxing. I find it very hard to believe that Floyd Mayweather, who introduced this Olympic-style testing into the sport of boxing, would go so hard and petition to have Olympic-style testing within the sport of boxing, knowing he was doing something incorrect. It's not that much money in the world, as we see in baseball, where these guys are making $400 million, signing $350 million contract on a regular basis, on a norm. That's a norm. And we see what took place in the sport of baseball with Victor Conte, with with Balco, Victor Conte. That's before Snack. He created Snack, okay? We saw what allegedly took place with the Barry Bonds, the biggest names within the sport of baseball. Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, Andy Pettitte. The list goes on and on. Jose Canseco, Alex Rodriguez. These are the biggest names within the sport of baseball, and we saw how that played out. They generate a whole lot of money, thus the reason why the owners of these baseball teams can afford to pay these baseball players $400 million contracts. Alex Rodriguez got 2 $300 million contracts. That's $600 million he got in contracts, okay? And we know what took place with that situation. So it doesn't matter how much money Floyd Mayweather generated for the city. you best believe if the opportunity arose for them to be able to put Floyd Mayweather, who's brass, who's flashy, who talks a lot, the opportunity to put him on Front Street as he petitioned very, very hard, and it held up the biggest fight in the history of the sport of boxing between himself and legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. Because Floyd Mayweather wanted Manny Pacquiao to take Olympic-style testing, Manny Pacquiao, he refused to do the Olympic-style testing, so the fight was held up for 5 years, a half a decade. That's a fight that's going to generate more money than any fight in the history of the sport of boxing, and it still did 5 years later, and Manny Pacquiao decided he was going to take the test. It still generated and became the biggest fight in the history of the sport of boxing. So imagine what it would have done 5 years prior. And Floyd Mayweather, the only holdup, the only sticking point was the fact that Floyd Mayweather wanted Manny Pacquiao to take Olympic-style testing. That was the only holdup. That was the only roadblock. So you believe that this money that could be generated was on the shelf because Floyd Mayweather stood on his square and said that he had to take Olympic-style testing. You don't believe that this would have came out, that Floyd Mayweather had tested positive a few times and it was swept under the rug. There's not a rug big enough to sweep an icon as big as Floyd Mayweather under the rug without something leaking out. It's impossible. Okay? It's not that much hush in the world. It's impossible. Okay? The figure that Floyd Mayweather is. Okay? The polarizing figure that Floyd Mayweather is. And the people that said that he was holding up the fight. You got to remember, when Floyd Mayweather allegedly had issues with his children's mother and his personal relationships, it went viral and nobody let him live it down. Nobody. It was on every mainstream sports media platform. Nobody let him live it down. Not even the judges, as Floyd Mayweather had to go sit down for a few days, for a few weeks, 30 days. Okay, so if you believe that Floyd Mayweather had tested positive for a banned substance and they decided to sweep it under the rug, as big and polarizing of a figure as Floyd Mayweather, and nobody leaked anything, if you believe that, then you live on Mars. You have to understand. You got to understand, so many people paid to see Floyd Mayweather lose. They paid to see him lose. The fact that Floyd Mayweather took an IV, that went viral. Oh, Floyd Mayweather took an IV. That's just natural saline. That's just salt water. It went viral. Everybody discussed it. So you think that Floyd Mayweather tested for a banned substance and it was swept under the rug and nothing leaked out? No type of truth leaked out. You have to be living on Mars, as I stated, because so many people would love to be able to have something to go against Floyd Mayweather. Again, as I stated, just as many people, if not more, paid to see him lose than people paid to see him win. So imagine, he's beating everybody's favorite fighter, okay? He held up the biggest fight in history because he won Olympic-style testing. You had legendary Hall of Fame trainer, who's the longtime trainer of Manny Pacquiao. He stated that Floyd Mayweather is trying to introduce something to the sport of boxing that's never been there. He's trying to make up his own rules, introducing Olympic-style testing. So if you believe that he held up the biggest fight in the history of sport of boxing for Olympic-style testing, and he himself was doing something, that would have been on Front Street. It would have been on every mainstream media. Do you see what happened with Barry Bonds? Athletes of massive stature, huge polarizing figures that get tested positive for banned substance. They never let off the hook. Doesn't matter how much money they generate for the city in which they participated and showcase their talents. You know how much money Barry Bonds generated for the city of San Francisco? Do you know how much money Roger Clemens generated for the city of New York? I mean, do you know how much money Mark McGuire delivered for the city of St. Louis? Do you know how much money Sammy Sosa delivered and generated for the city of Chicago? It doesn't matter how big of a polarizing figure you are. If something's done wrong, especially for somebody as brash and outspoken as Floyd Mayweather, it would have been on Front Street. So, people say he took an IV that was saline. It's never been proven. So, the fact that Floyd Mayweather is a polarizing figure, and the fact that he's generated more money than anybody in the history of the sport of boxing, the fact that he's beat more world champions than anybody in the history of the sport of boxing, he's done the biggest fights in anybody in the history of the sport of boxing, this would have been leaked out to put a tarnish and a stain on his resume. He retired undefeated. Do you think that they wanted to see, the powers that be would like to see Floyd Mayweather retired undefeated with no blemish on his resume? Absolutely not. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. Drop a comment in the comment section. Make sure you hit the like button. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for you. Peace.
This is Amanda, the real deal Serrano, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.